Welcome back to another week of 1 Week Wonders. Week 3 is pretty much over. Week 4 is coming, but let's talk about the 1 Week Wonders. Were they on your team? Probably not. They may not even been on anybody's rosters, but we're going to talk about the 1 Week Wonders for Week 3 when we come back right after this. Boom! Week 3 is almost over tonight. The Lions and the Ravens. We'll see. The Lions are playing at home, or Lions are playing away, so we'll see which team shows up. But we're back for Week 3, 1 Week Wonders. Of course, my good friend Ron Rigney got his Kings Classic shirt. Got my big guy shirt that my sister made like 10 years ago. I can't believe I still wear it, or can still wear it, I guess is really more the question. Still fits me. But Ron, welcome back. Here we are. The 1 Week Wonders, they popped out pretty heavily this week. A couple of them were like, where did these people come from? But here we are. Some were due to an injury, but we're happy to be back. And Ron, your thoughts on the 1 Week Wonders? Just overall, some interesting ones. Quite a few at quarterback just because of injuries. Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, Carson Wentz, those kind of folks. But the one that's number 3 overall, Geno Smith, coming out of nowhere, the 35-year-old, puts up 3 touchdowns, 24.1 fantasy points. When it's garbage time, you almost kind of look at it and go, yeah, this isn't going to happen that often. But they are the Raiders, and there's going to be a lot of garbage time. Am I right?
So, it's one of those things, too, when you look at Geno Smith's 3 games, the only game that he has 4 interceptions, but 3 of those were against a really good Chargers defense that there's not going to be a lot of garbage time against them. But when you look at Washington, when you look at New England, I mean, again, solid defenses. But what you like to see is they got the Bears coming up. The Bears have been solid on defense. But again, that Bears offense, we talked about them a little bit in the offseason. You saw it yesterday now again against a Dallas defense that isn't great either. But there's no reason to believe that there can't be more garbage time production for Geno Smith coming up in the next couple of weeks, especially if you can get days like he had out of Trey Tucker, who I think I saw where he was on 0.2 starting fantasy rosters this weekend. So that would be my luck. I would pick him off waivers and he would have a career week and I wouldn't have him in. So that wasn't the case this week.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, I drafted Trey Tucker in both Kings Classic leagues and waived him last week because he didn't do anything in the first 2 weeks. And I was like, okay, let's find some bodies that are, because I had Charbonnet down. I had a lot of injuries I was trying to structure for. So, I wouldn't have started him anyway, but I tossed him to the side. And of course, I'm sure he'll be gone this week. We'll see how much money is spent on him, and we'll get to him later. In a 2-quarterback league right now with all the injuries to the quarterbacks, Geno Smith's probably on somebody's rosters in a 2-quarterback league, at least as a backup. Could be starting now too. Whether he continues the consistency, I'd be hard pressed to believe it, but depends on your league, depends on your format. Ron, as we move into the running back position, we had a number of people kind of broke out, had their 1 week wonder, mostly because a lot of running backs got injured this week, and so these folks all stepped up. We had Omarion Hampton, Jordan Mason, Quinshon Junkins came in and was playing this week. Jeremy Nichols for Washington, all kinds of players. But the gentleman at number 3, who, yes, I did pick over Omarion Hampton, because I assume Omarion Hampton was on a lot of people's rosters from draft days. This guy, maybe not so much, depending on the depth of your league, but you're a big fan. Talk about your 1 week wonder at the running back position this week.
Yeah, this dude, and he inspired the football card of the week this week as well. Watching him, and the guy in New York, Scatabo, got a golden opportunity with Tyrone Tracy going out. Second straight week he's had double-digit touches. And if you've seen this guy run, this dude is the definition of a bowling ball. Reminds me of Maurice Jones-Drew. Reminds me of guys like Christian Okoye, Mike Allstott, just those massive dudes that just run you over. And he's a little more athletic than people give him credit for. And if you have a chance, one of the things that I saw today, and again, I know it's high school, but still, Pat McAfee's social media posted a highlight reel of Cam Scatebo's high school highlights. Please go check that out. Ridiculous what this dude is able to do. But, I mean, again, he catches the ball, had 6 catches yesterday,
Right.
through the air, 61 through the air, 60 on the ground, 120 total yards, 18 fantasy points in your standard scoring system. And, like you wrote in the article, Bob, it's going to be hard-pressed for Tyrone Tracy to get this job back. I think the roles are going to reverse. I think you're going to see Cam Scatabo in there. The majority of the touches, Tyrone Tracy's going to be that change of pace kind of guy. But, again, guy that I was able to get in one of my dynasty leagues, traded up for a couple picks, got him, got my guy Tyler Warren, got Hunter. I'm set up for a little while, but, again, I'd love to see this guy get some runs so I can put him in my lineup ahead of guys like maybe Breece Hall and Jalen Warren. He might be a starter for me coming up, but just a fun guy to watch and just a guy that went off this week, and there's going to be more of that to come.
Yeah, I will go watch it. My favorite clip is, I think it's Brian Dable was trying to do a press conference, and in the background in the locker room is Scatabo just screaming like, yeah! And everybody's laughing in the press conference, and he goes, yeah, that's Scatabo. He does that a lot. That's all he said. And he screamed one more time before the clip went off. And I was like, all right, I'm digging this dude. All right, let's get a little enthusiasm, right? But like you said, Mike Allstott didn't catch 6 passes a game. Right. That's the difference here. Allstott was a bruiser, but but on the other hand, let's look at some of the guys that are very reckless at running. Pacheco, Kenneth Walker. Sometimes you got to tone that down so you can stay on the field for your fantasy teams and your real team. So let's hope Scatabo, again, he's young, he's aggressive, he's a bowling ball. Let's hope he takes care of himself, makes the right decision sometimes, steps out of bounds instead of taking that head-on shot, or he will be on the sidelines as well, and Mr. Tracy will get his job back. But love the Scatabo and looking forward to watching more highlights of him. All right, at the wide receiver position, we talked about him already earlier. He was the big-time recipient of Mr. Geno Smith's 3 touchdowns. And his name, of course, is Trey Tucker. He was the 3rd wide receiver on this team heading into the season. So much love for Dante Thornton has not came to fruition. But Mr. Tucker yesterday just went crazy. 8 catches, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, 40.9 fantasy points. Second closest, Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson tied at 24.4. Again, if anybody started him, it was only because you're in a Raiders only league or something, because that's the only thing I can see. He had done nothing to this point. Who knows what he'll do since then? So, he's one of those guys where it's like, okay, yeah, I guess you can go pick him up. He might be worthy, for a bye week. Maybe you put him in one more time. This week, the Raiders are going, like you said, they have Chicago at home. So at least they're at home, indoors. That could be a shootout. Like you said, Chicago's a good defense, not a great defense. They look good against Dallas, but then again, that was right after CeeDee Lamb went down. Yeah. So that made it difficult. But we'll see. Tucker certainly has the speed. See how that all plays out. 40.9 is, if he scores 40 points over the next 5 weeks combined, I'll be shocked. But we'll see. But kid's got speed, certainly proved he can catch the ball and run. So we'll see how it all plays out the rest of the year. As I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a lot of garbage time for the Raiders. So this may be a guy that may be worth picking up, especially if you have a deep either bench or deep flex like we do. Certainly may be worth making that investment in him. Not sure I'd be dropping more than 10 or 20% of my fab, but it just depends on how desperate you are at wide receiver and what injuries may have hit you over the last week or two. So we go to the tight end position. Hunter Henry had a big week, but Hunter Henry should be on most rosters, may not be necessarily a starter, but probably should be on most rosters and maybe starting depending on your league. Obviously, we had a big week from Jake Ferguson, but it was not even as big, big as Hunter Henry, most because Hunter Henry caught 2 touchdowns. Jake Ferguson just happened to have 13 catches for 82 yards. So if he would have got any touchdowns, it would have been a big difference. But we had a Chigakwaku in there. Okonkwo, yeah. Johan Johnson. Let's talk about Johan Johnson before we get to the tight end for the week. So Johan Johnson was the first week, 15.6 fantasy points. Now, Johan Johnson has popped up randomly over the last 2 or 3 years for the Saints, but really never comes back and does much of anything. And I remember doing the show after week 1, and I think that was a week. Was you here, or was that James' week?
I think it was you and James.
Yeah, so James and I was talking, and I said, well, part of me is like, no, we'll never hear from Johan Johnson again. And the other part of me was like, well, who else are they going to throw to? Chris Olave? Yeah. But Rattler is not going to get the kind of time to be looking downfield waiting for Rashid Shaheed to get open. And I said, we could see a lot of Johan Johnson after this because he needs a security blanket. He needs the dump offs, and it's either, Alvin Kamara or maybe a quick slant by Olave, or it's Johan Johnson in the middle of the field. We are now in our 3rd week, 15.9 fantasy points last week, 11.1 this week, 3 straight clutch games, 2 for 2 since he had that week. So he is a perfect 3 for 3 at tight end. Just amazing. May continue. I don't know when this stops. Maybe some week I'll have somebody that covers the tight end, but the Saints obviously are not playing well. Their defense is terrible, and they'll be throwing the ball a lot, just kind of like the Raiders. So be interesting on the Johan Johnson thing. But this New Orleans Saint tight end, who is the backup or basically the second tight end for the Saints, caught a touchdown, and he is, of course, the ever-present Jack Stoll. Ron?
So one thing I want to point out, too, before we move on with Johan Johnson, 28 targets in 3 games, and I think a lot of it, I'd like to see how much of that's garbage time stuff, because if you watched any of the Cowboys game yesterday, you mentioned Jake Ferguson, and a lot of his catches were underneath stuff when the defense was backed off. So we'll see if that's the kind of stuff. You got a young quarterback that's going to have to check down, and you got a defense that's terrible. So I see that kind of continuing, although they got the Bills next week. The Bills are pretty good against the tight end. So on to Jack Stoll, and you might ask, who the hell is Jack Stoll? Well, let me tell you.
Who the hell is Jack Stoll?
Jack Stoll went to the University of Nebraska, had some injury issues there, had a pretty solid little career. When you look at his numbers there, let's see, where did they go here? 61 catches, 657 yards, and 6 touchdowns in 43 games at the University of Nebraska. Signed as a free agent in 2023 with the Eagles. He's been with the Eagles, with the Dolphins, the Giants, and he's not caught a pass he actually has a few catches in his career, but first touchdown was last week. Normally a blocking guy, normally special teams guy. But Jack Stoll, the thing I think I like about him the most is when you look him up and you look up his pictures, dude can grow a mean Nebraska mullet, let me tell you.
There you go.
That's the kind of guy you're looking for. So I don't know if you want to go out and drop any fab money on Mr. Jack Stoll. He is a blocking tight end, and it was kind of an out-of-hand game. I think it ended up being 44-13 on the road in Seattle. So again, Johan Johnson's the Saints tight end that you want to own, but it's a fun little story to see Jack Stoll kind of come out of nowhere, an undrafted guy, and get his first NFL touchdown. So hats off to Mr. Jack Stoll.
Yeah, tight ends are definitely the areas where we get lots of. I mean, I was just looking down the list. Drew Sample, Armando Gatson finally got some time. John Fitzpatrick for Green Bay, who must be the 3rd tight end between. I was like, what? So definitely quite the hodgepodge of players out there. But Ron, before we sign off here, I just want to kind of remind people, what this event, what this show is about, why we track this stuff. So it's about, do the 1 week wonders continue consistency after their 1 week? So for the first 2 weeks, so we had week one, as I mentioned earlier, have done very well. Actually, 5 of 8 clutch games in the next 2 games. That's 63%. However, week two's group of Russell Wilson, Bashal Tutin, Hunter Renfrow, and Jatavian Sanders combined for less than 20 points as a foursome after having almost 80 in week 2. They all went 0 for 1 in their clutch games. So right now we're 5 for 12 at 42% consistency. And I think that's high. We'll see where it goes from here. We'll see how Geno, Skattebo, Tucker, and Stoll do as we move on. But, the other guys, obviously Daniel Jones has been doing well. He didn't get the fantasy numbers, even though they won. Did they win? Yeah, they won.
Oh, yeah.
Right, the Colts. Hell, what am I saying? But still looked good in the game, but only had 15.8 points because, well, they didn't have to score as much.
Well, and to be fair, Jonathan Taylor kind of took care of it single-handedly, too.
Yeah,
They didn't
right.
need to rely on Danny Dimes, which was a good thing.
Right. When he rushes for 3 touchdowns, that's going to happen. So Dylan Sampson obviously hasn't done anything now, and now Justin's back. I don't expect him to do much. Quentin Johnson is still 3 for 3 in clutch games. Which is still a big surprise to me. I think we may have talked about this maybe on our Thursday shows or other shows, but Ladd McConkey is now third in fantasy points behind Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston. We'll see if he gets back in the mix, but the Chargers are 3-0. I don't think they're going to change what they're doing because it's working. But if you're a Ladd McConkey owner, yeah, I'm sorry. I have my pains too. Trust me. But anyway, so just want to let you know, 42% consistency since their week 1, week 2s. We'll see what happens after week 3. So, Ron, thanks for joining as always. Tell everybody where they can find you. How did the consistently cashing go?
Honestly, I know that the guys I sent, I didn't see the actual finished lineup, so I have to go back and check.
Yeah.
But I know a couple of guys. I think we had Jonathan Taylor, Jordan Mason. Commanders defense went off. I can't remember who we ended up going with the quarterback, but I think a couple of those guys
actually went with Dak, sadly.
Okay, so that could be. Yeah, I don't know.
That might have been. Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see how we did there. How'd you guys do on the props?
So on the props, somebody else went 1 for 2, and if Sam Laporta catches 5 or more balls, I went 3-0.
Hell yeah! All right.
So yeah, I took Josh Jacobs under 77 yards rushing against the Browns, which I thought was an easy one, and Travion Henderson over 24.5 rushing yards, which he did. Nice. So that Cleveland defense, folks, is for real, especially against the run. Brutal. So if you see any high, let's see who's the Cleveland playing this week. Oh, they get Detroit at Detroit. Don't know if they can hold both Gibbs and Montgomery back, but Montgomery might be the guy that may not get as much looks because of he's more of the up the middle guy, but we'll see. But tell everybody they can find you, my friend, and I assume you have a card you mentioned.
I do. We didn't have one for last week, so I went with a couple of them today. Went with a couple of my all-timers, guys that I loved watching play growing up. Nice little Reggie White Topps, 1997 Topps card that I found in a box I didn't know I had. Kind of pretty there. But talked about how I was inspired by Mr. Cam Scatabo. I was able to add this one to my collection. Little Mike Allstott in the creamsicle, little auto there.
Very nice.
Yeah, super good stuff. And I don't know if you guys have seen the little bit updated creamsicles they're going with for the 50th anniversary, but those are super sharp as well. Check those unis out.
That's what they wore this past Sunday, right?
They did. They wore the white ones this Sunday. I'm more of a fan of the orange ones, but they're both pretty solid. So again, get over to Big Guy Fantasy Sports. Gave you the start sit last week. Got a few of those right. Gave you Johan Johnson. Gave you Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was okay. He got a little bit garbagey, but he did post some touchdowns. Didn't throw any picks. So we'll say that one was a win. Again, you talked about that Browns defense, told you to sit those Green Bay running backs. So did okay on the start sit. But the thing that I use for that, and the thing that you guys can use if you pay that $20 is go use that consistency forecaster. It's the best thing we got by far. Go in there, type in who you got. It's going to tell you for the next couple of weeks against those good and bad defenses on the at home or on the road. Go check that thing out because it is absolutely amazing what it tells you. Gives you that sample size. I'll have the start sit for you this week. Colby's over there. James is over there. Bob's over there. Check out all the stuff. Check out the pods. Check out the prop bets. Got tons and tons of stuff over at BigGuyFantasySports.com.
Absolutely. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Bob_Lung. As Ron said, so much stuff going on. I'll have my show Thursday with James Knight. Of course, we'll have, so if you, just in case, if you want to read some more about the players we picked for this week, the article is up on Big Guy Fantasy Sports for the 1 week wonders, and we'll continue to track that. As he mentioned, James is cranking out articles all the time. Ron, Colby, and I cranking out the props and the DFS. I will not be around because I will be in the city of Seattle, Washington this weekend, checking out Ohio State, Washington football and some Mariners baseball. Sadly, the Seahawks weren't playing at home. They're playing in Arizona this week, so that was disappointing. I would like to see a game at the actual Seattle stadium. But anyway, check it all out this week. So for Ron Rigney, I'm Bob Lung. Take care. God bless. We'll see you soon.